I'd like to welcome you, Thomas.
Thank you.
It is amazing being a normal person like me. Always gives a kind of a excitement to have somebody having such a courageous decision in life to walk all through Europe to up to Nepal. So, what triggers you to start this journey?
Mhm. Well, first of all, I love hiking. I always did, and even when I was younger, I was always thinking about one day I would do a pilgrimage. And that time, back then when I was like 20 years old, I was thinking of doing a pilgrimage to Santiago de Compostela, which you might know is a very renowned pilgrimage in Western Europe, going to the town of Santiago de Compostela in Spain. And it happened so that I ended up living in the Philippines for more than 10 years. I started an NGO there. We reach out to children in street situations, children who have become victims of abuse and sexual exploitation in the Philippine city of Cagayan de Oro, which is on the island of Mindanao. And I was living there for 10 years, building the project together with the local co-founder and our team, our local team, and the project grew over the years. So my plans with my pilgrimage were set aside, but then in 2020 I had to return to Switzerland because my mother, my beloved mother, was severely ill with cancer, and I went back to Switzerland to take care of her during her last stage. And when she left us, I felt that for one I would go back to the Philippines eventually, but I also felt that I needed time to process the loss of my mother, and I needed time to think about how I would then continue my life in the Philippines, because the operations of the projects, they were already sort of turned over to the local people. They were running it well, and I said, well, I'm actually not needed anymore there. But at the same time, my heart was there, and I decided that I would go back and I would continue our advocacy for children. Then I came up with this idea, maybe start a second project within the organization. And then, so with this desire to go on a pilgrim, to process the loss of my mother, and also to think about how I would start the second project in the Philippines, came up the idea of doing a walk for a cause. And instead of walking to Santiago de Compostela, which would be the wrong direction, I said, well, why don't you just walk to the Philippines? And of course, we cannot walk to the Philippines. There is a sea between Vietnam and the Philippines, but you can actually walk all the way from Switzerland to Vietnam, and then from there take a boat or a flight to the north of the Philippines, and then you can walk the Philippines from north to south. And that's exactly what the journey I embarked on about 15 months ago, when I left my hometown in Switzerland, Interlaken, and started walking towards the Philippines. So here I am 15 months later in Kathmandu, Nepal, and your beautiful country, and I've covered so far 10,200 kilometers of hiking, and there are another about 4,800 remaining kilometers to be covered from here to the Philippines and down to the south. So I'm about two-thirds in about two-thirds of my journey are covered, and there is about one-third I will have to cover yet. But of course, the longer the journey goes, the more confident I get that I will eventually reach my final destination, Cagayan de Oro. And with this walk for a cause, I'm raising funds for a second children's village for neglected, abandoned, and abused children in the Philippines.
So for the better understanding, you started your journey on foot from Switzerland.
Yes.
Via many countries to up to Vietnam, and then from Vietnam to Philippines. How did you come?
From Vietnam to the Philippines, I will have to take either a flight or I'd rather even take a boat if there is a chance for that.
Okay,
but I still
and from
have to figure it
so
out.
how did you come to Nepal?
I walked to Nepal
From
Switzerland.
Okay,
Yeah.
So it took
But
15 months.
It took 15 months, yeah.
And you covered like 10,000 of hiking
10,200
plus
kilometers.
4,800.
Yeah, it's about 4,800 now to my final destination in the Philippines.
And I'm curious, why Philippines?
Well, the thing is this: when I was working in Bern,
Mm-hmm.
I used to be a police officer there before,
Okay.
and I was renting an apartment on the rooftop of the Philippine embassy. Through my apartment there, I got in contact with some embassy members, more especially one of the attachés, Mr. Andiano, Raymond Andiano. We became very good friends, and I also became friends with the ambassador of that time. And Mr. Andiano, he kept inviting me to visit his hometown in the Philippines once he's back.
Mm-hmm.
And I always said, I have no plans of visiting the Philippines because I was always desiring to visit South America rather, which I never did, by the way. But then in 2007, when I had to take a bigger holiday because I had a lot of overtime in my work, I said, well, he keeps inviting me, so let's visit him there. So I went to the Philippines. And my purpose was visiting a friend and at the same time doing touristic activities like going for scuba diving, doing a tour all around the Philippines. That was my intention when I went there. I was not thinking about starting a charity there. But then when I arrived in Cagayan de Oro, we took a cab from the airport to the city center. And from the cab, I saw the huge garbage dump of the city with a lot of urban poor children actually working and living on that dumping site. And that really touched my heart. And also in the city center, we met people who were actually living in the streets, children living on the street, addicted to glue sniffing.
Mm-hmm.
And also children in prostitution, which was very shocking for me, and I felt like something should be done about it, or I wanted to do something about it, and so over the time of 5 weeks which I spent in the Philippines, I started to build a connection with the local community, especially those urban poor people. And Mr. Andiano, my friend Raymond, he introduced me also to locals who also had an intention to help their brethren. And from there, to cut the long story short, in Switzerland, I asked some people whether they would be interested to form an association with me. And my mother was also one of the founding members, and she also told her friends, and so we got together a team of volunteers. After 3 years, our organization grew to the point that I sort of had to make the decision: do I want to focus on this full time because it's getting too much aside from my work in Switzerland? So that's the time I moved to the Philippines for good. And now 15 years later, we operate the Children's Village with 5 houses where we provide full-time care for about 74 children at the moment. And we have 2 learning centers. We support about 1,000 students community-based in our community-based programs and services. So we pick them up from the street, from the slum areas, bring them to our learning centers, and we provide complete education to these children and youth.
This education is academic, like certified?
Yes. It's actually the education, starting in 2012, we entered into a partnership with the Philippine Department of Education. So we became partners with the government. Then we also entered into partnerships with much bigger international organizations, such like Save the Children Philippines, UNICEF became a partner for certain projects, and we are not a big organization, but we are quite big locally. Like locally,
yeah, the education that you provide is a formal education.
Is a formal education,
okay.
Yes, and then we have special programs too. For example, we have a class for teen mothers, because teenage pregnancy is a big issue in the Philippines, especially in urban poor settlements. We have a lot of teenage girls that actually become young mothers, and usually their education just stopped, or they never ever had gone to school at all. And what we try to do is we try to help them to continue, or to even start their education despite having a baby. So we have this class for teen mothers where they could even bring their toddler with them if there is no one to take care of the baby, and they could even do breastfeeding there. And so there are special programs for special groups of children with different needs. We also have a special education class for children with learning difficulties. We do have a child development center where we provide counseling, psychosocial interventions, and we just last year established a women's safe house. It's a house where women coming from a background of abuse, being dependent on the abusive person as the major breadwinner of the family, can find a refuge for like temporary shelter, and then we try to help them to organize their lives.
These are the common and problem of all developing and underdeveloped countries, and we are also facing the similar kind of problem, and there are people who are working for to solve such problems in the way they could. But interesting part of your journey to me and maybe to our viewers also is how difficult it was for you to decide to walk out from your house to start this long journey.
Well, to decide for it was not so difficult. It rather just came to me, and I was very determined to do this. And of course, I asked my team in Switzerland, and I asked the team in the Philippines, what you think about it? Would you agree with me doing this? Because of course it involves some risks, and we are not also sure whether it will be successful for the fundraising. But then the teams in both countries reassured me, okay, if you feel that this is something you need to do now, go for it, we trust you, which I'm very grateful for. Then the difficulties of course came along the way. So one can imagine it's walking distance of 15,000 kilometers is always also accompanied by challenges that happen along the way.
And you walked alone, right?
I walk most of the time alone. I have sometimes someone joining me, so I did invite friends. I said, whoever wants to walk with me, feel free, just visit me wherever I am along the way, and then walk with me. It can.
So they just join you for fun or whatever reason for small distance?
Yes, they joined me for the longest was actually one good friend of mine. He joined me in Turkey for 6 weeks, and I was very, very thankful for that. And the same guy again joined me in the Great Himalayan National Park in India. And there again, I was very lucky to have him, because we had to climb a lot over the mountains. There was no really path after all. But for long stretches, I was also just completely alone. Like I was walking through the deserts of Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan alone. I was walking now in Nepal most of the time alone, although I had.
So your route was like, okay, you started from Switzerland, then?
Yes, from Switzerland over the Alps to Italy, northern Italy, then Slovenia, Croatia, Bosnia-Herzegovina, Montenegro, Albania, Kosovo, then Serbia, Bulgaria. Then I walk across Turkey to the Black Sea coast, and then across Georgia, and then supposed to be I would have walked part of Russia into Kazakhstan, but as you might know, war broke out when I was still in Turkey. war between
Ukraine.
Russia actually attacked Ukraine,
Uh-huh.
and it became I couldn't enter Russia any longer as a Western European. So what I had to do, I had to actually travel over the Caspian Sea to Kazakhstan, but this did not really make the route shorter, because from Kazakhstan I still had to cross then the desert into Uzbekistan and then all the way down through Uzbekistan. And I had to take this road also because you could not, had I gone via Iran, then it would have been a problem with Turkmenistan, because Turkmenistan is completely closed for foreigners. They don't let anyone enter their country as of the moment. So I had to go around that. And then I walked all the way through Uzbekistan, then Tajikistan, to the border with China and Pakistan. And there again, I faced a bigger obstacle because of the tensions between Pakistan and India. It wouldn't be possible for me to enter India over the northern land border. I had to, this part of Pakistan, I had to actually skip it. So I had to fly over Pakistan there, and then took a shared bus to the Pakistani border in Nubra Valley, and then started to continue my walk there all the way down, and then entered Nepal coming from Chandigarh, walking over the Terai, and then did the detour to Pokhara, and then from Pokhara to Gorkha. In Gorkha I met two friends of mine, came from Switzerland, and they walked with me to Kathmandu. And from Kathmandu, I already continued walking to Bhimeshwar on my way to GD. So right now I'm actually in Bhimeshwar, and since Mr. Kem invited me to visit him here and to sit here with you for an interview, I actually took a bus from Bhimeshwar back to Kathmandu. So after this I will be going back to Bhimeshwar
to continue
from there I will continue my journey on.
And that goes how it goes?
This is yet another thing now. I went to the Myanmar embassy here in Kathmandu already a week ago, and I wanted to apply for a visa, which would have been granted. However, they informed me that because of their situation in Myanmar, the current situation, it's not allowed for me to enter Myanmar over land borders. I could only fly into the country and fly out again. And also, if I would choose to do so, I would have to hire a guide from the government who would accompany me all the way through Myanmar, and still there are some areas that are restricted. I could not walk, and then go to Bangladesh, and then I will walk across Bangladesh, and then from Bangladesh, from the end of Bangladesh, I will have to figure out how to get to Thailand, probably by boat over the sea, if this is possible. It's just a short distance actually, but unfortunately Bangladesh doesn't connect with Thailand. There is this small part of Myanmar in between still, so I will have to either take boats or take a flight to Chiang Mai, I guess, in the north of Thailand, and then travel to the border with Myanmar, and then walk through the north of Thailand into Laos, walk across Laos, walk across Vietnam, and then from there, from Hanoi, I will have to figure out again how to get to the north of the Philippines, probably by plane, if possible, by ship. I would love to.
So your journey completes after reaching Philippines?
No. When I reach the Philippines, I will go to the very north of the Philippines, and I will compensate for the miles I wasn't able to cover in Pakistan.
Okay.
So I will then walk all the way down from the very north of the Philippines down to Mindanao in the south, where I live and where we operate our charity. So that will be another 2,000 kilometers of walking within the Philippines. So that will add up to 15,000 kilometers then.
All right. Now, the most interesting question, the curiosity that I have in my mind is, because you have crossed a lot of geographical terrain, and you have made a lot of different caste, creed, and religion. And what are the different, trend or way they behave as per the religion or whatever, you know. So can you just briefly explain, you know, all the way?
Walking from Switzerland to Kathmandu, I didn't really experience a problem with people. And one thing I realized is across nations, across cultures, across religions, we people as human beings, we have more in common than we might think. So in every country, people are basically very similar when it comes to, okay, they want stability, they need work, they need food, they need to support their families, and they want to be loved and they want to be respected, and that's what we have in common everywhere, across all nations and across all cultures. And if we focus on that and we try to, so what I do whenever I come to a new country, I try to respect their culture. I try to respect the way they look at things, and it turns out that they also respect me, and I experienced across all different cultures and religions, I experienced so much hospitality. I experienced so much warmth. People trusted me, people were amazed by what I'm doing, and people were very helpful. I got invited for food, I got invited to stay overnight. And of course, you have these experiences with, I tell you a little story, what I experienced in Nepal. So there was this village after Pokhara in the mountains, where no foreigners are there. It's not a tourist area. And I was looking, though I have my tent, but I was very tired, and I was not in the forest or something. I was in this village, and I felt like, okay, I'm hungry, I'm gonna eat something. There was this small restaurant where they offer the Nepali kana. I eat there, and then I asked the woman, is there any place in the village like a guest house or something? And I said, there is none, but she told her daughter, she had a 13-year-old daughter, she told her daughter, tell him that he can sleep here, we have a room, we can prepare for him. And then I was invited to stay there overnight, and I was very happy, of course. And I was so happy, and her daughter was talking a lot, her English was very good, and then I started to whistle in my room, and then immediately the daughter came to the room and said, no, shh, you cannot do that. I said, why can I not do that? And then she said, no, it attracts the evil spirits. And I said, oh, I'm very sorry, I apologize for that. I didn't know that this attracts the evil spirit, because in Switzerland, we believe it attracts the good spirits at most.
Oh, really?
So we were really both laughing, and so I learned a lesson. So I don't know, but in this village in the mountains, it's like that. So you're not ought to whistle inside the house. And then you just gotta respect that. And he said, okay, I will not do that again. And well, unfortunately, in the morning I forgot about it, and I was whistling again in the, after brushing my teeth and everything in the bathroom. And then what she said, you can call me Musuri, because everybody calls me that, because when I was a baby I was small as a mouse. That's why they call me Musuri. It's so funny. And then she again, she came to the person, no, I told you yesterday, you cannot do that. Don't you know, you are attracting the evil spirits. I said, oh my God, I forgot about it. Please forgive me.
You're using this Musori, like such a friendly, repeatedly taking that name. So do you have any other Musori in different countries that you appreciate their behavior?
Oh yeah, I have. In every country I met kind people.
One kind
who
Musori
invited me. Yeah. But this Musuri story in Nepal is really a special thing. Right. I felt like for a short moment, I felt like at home, and I think that's what you need on a journey that big. Sometimes you feel alone. Sometimes you are very lonely. You're far away from family, far away from friends, and then when you get someone like Musuri and their family, that really gives you a feeling of, oh wow, I feel at home, I feel very comfortable here. And you need that. And then you just have to be, wherever you are, you have to be open. You have to practice this open awareness and okay, not being judgmental, not being, because in Switzerland people would say, oh, in this country people are like this and that. And you get to a country and you realize, oh, it's total opposite. or it's not what people told you that it is, and it's not what you expected it to be. So I had maybe these images of certain countries in my mind, but when I got there, I realized, oh, it's totally different, and I was always surprised in a very positive way, and so it was with Nepal. Nepal is a funny thing. I was just thinking, okay, Nepal. I was thinking about Everest and snow and all the mountains and everything. And then I find myself in a jungle. I find myself in a jungle where the army said, oh, there are tigers and all of that. That was not my picture of Nepal. And so when you start the journey of this, what do you call that? When you start such a big journey, one thing you will be realizing is that the world is different from what you thought it is.
Wow.
And what you will realize also is that the world is much better than what you may thought it is. Of course, in every country you have issues, you have poverty, you have crime and all of these things. But in general, people, I believe, are better than we think. People generally are good. They want to bless you, they want to please you, and if you are open for that, and if you also want to bless other people, then I think no harm will basically be done against you. That's what I experienced so far.
Wow, yes. Very quick questions. What your typical size of your log is? Like in kg, or how big is your log is every day?
I carry, without water and food, I carry 15 kilo. If I add water and food, it adds up to about 20 kilo. Or when I have to take with me food for a long period of time, for example, in Ladakh, there was for 8 days, I didn't see a single human being in the mountains. There was no village. Then I had to bring food with me I took food with me for 10 days, and I took a lot of water too. Then it added up to 22, 23 kilos.
What kind of food for 6, 7, 10 days?
Oh,
dried?
Yeah, I bring with me like dried fruit, nuts, buckwheat. Buckwheat is very good. You can just cook it with, boil it with water, and it gives you a lot of energy. I like porridge, especially in the morning. It's very good. And the dried fruit, the nuts, just very basic things. Now in Nepal, when there are villages along the way, I usually eat once a day the Nepali kana. That gives me everything. It's very affordable, and you can always have a refill. So I like that. It? Yeah. And if they have, I eat the Dido or Dido. Yeah. That is very good. That is very good for it gives you a lot of energy. I love the Nepali foods. I had in India. I always ate the thali.
Spicy.
And what I like better in Nepal is like the vegetables are not like blended, but you really get the saag. I love saag. It's just cut it's chopped in pieces, and I really love the food here. It's not overcooked. It's just right for me, and not that spicy.
Have you ever realized the change in you?
Yes, certainly. Well, one thing I realized is that I think I'm more calm, more relaxed, and just open for whatever will come. Because when you embark on a journey like this, you never know what will happen next. And of course, nobody knows that in life, but there is a tendency that people, especially in Western Europe, I feel it's like that. They try to plan everything. But when you travel like what I'm doing now, you cannot do this. You will walk the whole day, and when it's getting dark, you will have to look for a place to sleep. You never know where exactly you are going to lay down your head, and you have to learn to be open for whatever might come, whether it will be positive or negative. So it's just like, and I think that's something I feel it's making me calm. It's making me more relaxed, and it's making me more open and more confident that actually things can be done, and there are no problems that cannot be solved. And I now tend not to look at obstacles as a problem, but rather receive them as a challenge. And we will find a way to overcome. It's really teaching me that the world is really a village, and there are so many potentials and opportunities along the way if we are just open-heartedly ready to embrace those opportunities and to be open to meet other people with different cultures, with different ideas, without putting a judgment on it, but just by being open for it.
I wish you all the best for your future endeavors. Keep motivating the whole world, and making this world a beautiful place to live, and kind of increase empathy in the humanity. Thank you so much.
Dhanyavad.
I'm blessed to meet you.
Yeah, the same for me.